Hey guys, new video here. Today I'd like to make a very new player friendly video again. I'm going to put on D&D here actually because there's a ton of trades coming through and I want to make sure that we can focus up on this video here because I think it's pretty important. There has been a lot of questions in my chat and in my stream about like how do I set up the juice, right? And the juice is basically things that you add to your map to make it either more fun, more rewarding, more monsters, more stuff to do inside the map, maybe like adjusting your playstyle to like certain new mechanics that are on the atlas, like atlas skill points. Anything you do to modify your mapping experience is like, we kind of call that like the juice, right? So if you're running like a white map unrolled, like you're doing stuff like everyone knows ouch and go, right? You put an alchemy on the map, you run it, and you hope you get something good. So if you're running like a tier 2 map, you're running this Garn map like this, ouch and go, that's not very juiced, right? But if you're putting on like fragments and or like scarabs, and you're putting in all kinds of sextants and stuff, and then you're adding like influences, and then you're doing all kinds of crazy shit to your maps, then that's like the juice. Okay, so that's the terminology we're going to use. And once again, I'm going to try to keep this video very new player friendly, and if you're an experienced player, you probably don't want to watch this video because you're going to know everything I talk about here. So first things first, right? People always ask me, how do I roll my maps? And I'm going to explain that first. So what I do is I take all my maps that I want to roll. For me, it's usually burial chambers. And I take them and I put them somewhere where they are alone and they won't get interfered with any maps, okay? So for example, if I'm rolling this set of maps here, I'm not actually going to roll it in here. And the reason for that is, for whatever reason, if I go do some maps, right, randomly, I'm like tired of rolling, and I pick up maps, and I have my tab affinities on, and I start stashing my maps, there's a chance that, like, let's say I pick up like these two burial chambers in a map and they're just like white, right? And then I dump them. They're automatically go to the map tab, and that's gonna get mixed in with the other maps that I have pre-rolled. So it's kind of messy, and you might end up like pulling the wrong maps. So that's not very good. How I do it is I take all my maps out into tabs to roll individually, right? So if you want to use this tab like in the meantime, before you shift it to another tab, that's totally fine. But I'll either roll all at once in here, or I might use something like this. And this is kind of like how I've set up my things since like maybe last league or a few leagues ago, where everything is lined up so it's ready to run. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I am first going to use 4 chisels. If you don't know, chisels add 20% quantity to a map. So it's kind of like a magic find tool. Very, very good, very cheap right now, and very worth using. It also gets multiplied by this bonus. I'm going to be mentioning this bonus a whole lot, okay? So this bonus, min max here is 164, 162, and that 27% will also apply to that 20%, right? So super good there. And I believe that's like 5% quantity. So I use my chisels first on a white map, which means I'll scour all the maps. I will type in this in my tab, right? I mean, let's show you with this tab because it's way easier here before I move it over. Let's say I'm rolling with this tab. So what I would do is I'll get all my maps ready and I'll type in normal. The reason I type in normal or norm is because I want white maps only, because I'm going to scour them and then chisel them. A chisel adds 5% at a time if the map is white. If it's blue, it'll add 2%. If it's rare, it'll add 1%. If it's corrupted, you can't add any quantity. Unique maps add 1% per chisel. So as you can see, it's very efficient to use chisels on white maps because there's only 4 of them for 20% maps. So you go to your tab where you're rolling your maps. I will type in normal, and then I will start scouring. Okay, let me just show you real quick so that you can like follow along if this is your first time doing it. So normal, right? So I'll take the scourings and I'll start scouring all the way down like this, right? If it lights up, it means that it meets the criteria in the highlighting, okay? So I'm not going to do it for all of it because like it's going to be confusing for you, okay? So, or sorry, that's not going to be confusing, but it's going to make the video take way too long. So you're going to scour everything, okay? And then you're going to search for a few things after that, after everything's lit up, okay? And that is, some maps now can drop with like enchantments, and this might not matter to you, but like before you even do this, you might even type in like corrupted to make sure you don't have any corrupted maps in there. But there's something called delirium, and some maps drop with delirium now. So these are important to take a note of because delirium adds in a very, very large amount of monsters, a lot of quantity, magic find, rarity, but it also makes the map significantly harder, okay, especially for new players or starting characters where you're not very geared or anything. So if you take a note of these delirious maps, you might want to set those aside because those might be maybe too hard for your character to handle, or you might want to pair those with more juice. Okay, so after I've taken a look at that, I might also do this. I might type in Zaba because the reason for this is because there's a beast craft, or not beast craft, a harvest craft, where sometimes you can add like random enchantments to your maps to have a free map device roll on it already. And the reason that this matters is if you're focusing any of these mods, like I'll talk about later, you actually do not want the Zaba enchant on there because you don't get to pick. They changed this league. In previous league, you could have 2 of them, so you could have the enchant on it, and then you could pick whatever you wanted. But this league, if you have the enchant on there, you actually can't even pick your thing. So let me just give you a quick example of that. And let me type this in here. Let's see. Okay, I actually don't have any of those. But yeah, so pay attention to that if you want to pick what you want to roll from the match device. So after you're done scouring, and then what you're going to do is you're going to chisel, right? So we type in normal, and these are now all white. So you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I've already chiseled these, but you're gonna chisel it 4 times. And then the way that you highlight those with 20% is you just type in 20%. If it lights up with 20%, it pretty much means that it has 20% quality. There are some rare cases where like a rare map can have 20% map pack size. It can have maybe the rarity is 20% for whatever reason. But remember, you scoured your maps first, so that shouldn't happen. So now you have 20%. The next thing you're going to do is, the way that I do it is I take my my alchemies, and I'm going to type in rare into the search box. Typing in rare makes it light up all the ones that are rare. So at this point for you, these will be not lit up, right? So you will go ahead and you'll span through, and then you will go, and then you will see that they are all rare now, because you should never be running a white or magic map at this point in the league. Another thing that you're going to do is now that everything is rare, let me just go ahead and make this rare and these, okay, just as an example. Let me make this really nice and tidy. Now, another thing I'm going to do is I'm now going to filter. This is my first round of filtering in case we do corruptions later. So I'm going to filter for mods that I cannot do, and this is going to vary per player. For me, I'm not going to do cannot regen because that's super annoying, even though I have a Cinder Swallow Flask. I'm not going to do reflect Ellie because my build is fully converted from Fizz to Ellie, so I can do the Fizz reflect, but I can't do Ellie reflect. And then I'm going to filter out something called temporal chains because I am a self-curse character. If there's a temporal chains on the map, it's not going to give me the full effect of my curse, and my build's going to be completely scuffed. So how do we search for these? Well, the way I like to do it is parentheses is pretty good. I like to type in of Ellie. The reason for parentheses, sometimes you don't need it, but it's just safe to type in parentheses. Parentheses highlights that set of text in that order, because sometimes if you type things without the parentheses, you see how more things highlighted, because it's looking for the word elemental and it's looking for the word of in any combination, in any line, or anywhere on the map. So Ellie could be elemental equilibrium, right? Elemental resistances. It could be elemental reflect. You don't really know. So it'd be safe to get rid of Ellie, which is reflect, right? You see how this is of elemental damage reflect? I like to type that in, and I'll take these out, right? Because I'm not going to do these. Cannot regen is pretty safe. You can just type in cannot regen, and now you can see that there it is, cannot regen. And then another thing is temporal. So I just type in temporal because if the map has temporal, the word in it, it's a temporal chains map. As you can see here, these are all temporal chains maps. Okay, so you can type in whatever you want to filter out the rules that you can't do. So a common one, if you can't do Fizz reflect, right, you're gonna do of Fizz, right? You just type in that, and there's ways you can make this short, right? I can probably type in of, like, I don't know, like can I type in this, like can I type in FP, right? Maybe like FP or PHY. You can short this down and get really, really efficient, but I just kind of got into the muscle memory of this, and this is how I type it. Okay, so remember your parentheses and make sure that it is like that block of text in the parentheses. So you might, I don't need to take this out, but just as an example. Okay, so now that we've taken all these out, you have a few options. Now you can set these aside because maybe reflect, you can pair it with a sextant that makes you able to do those 3 reflect maps at a time. Or what I like to do, I just like to re-roll it, right? So if you want to re-roll to save maps, because maybe your map pool is not very bad or not very big, you can go ahead and scour the bad ones, right? And then you can go ahead and roll it again. Okay. A quick note when you're re-rolling things: if you ever find a map that's both Beyond and Nemesis rares, right? It has the mod. Let me see if I can find it for you. I don't think I have a Beyond on here. But if you can find the map mod Beyond right there, slaying enemies close together has a 30% chance to attract monsters from Beyond. You get that, and you get rare monsters. Oh, actually, how do you oh, Nemesis. So if you get the Nemesis role on here and beyond at the same time, you can actually sell this for quite a bit on the trade websites, because people want to run Nemesis 3, which is a sexton for like more currencies. I find it super annoying. I don't like it, but a lot of people love running that. So they're going to need Beyond to spawn a lot of rares. They're going to need the Nemesis mod to make every rare monster have that tag. Okay, that's a little note when you're like throwing out or discarding or rerolling maps that I found can help you maybe make a little bit of money if you want, or you don't want to run those maps, right? Or you don't care about those maps, you just sell them. So that's one thing to note. And after I re-roll them, I'll put them back into the stash. And now remember, you re-roll, you don't want to be looking over one map at a time, right? Because it's like super slow. So then I'll filter again, right? Of Ellie, I'll look at my cannot regen, and then I will look at my temporal chains here. And as you can see, I have 2 more. And then once you get down to like 1 or 2, you know, then at this point you can scour, and then you can roll it individually, which means that you don't roll it, don't look at it and put it back in the stash. You roll it and actually look at it, because there's barely any, right? So I look at this one, okay, that one's fine. I look at this one, that one's fine. I put it back, and then now I know that I'm safe. Because if you put back maps without looking at them, you have to do all of the filters that you can't do all over again, right? So now we are primed up. Now our maps are 20% quality, which I believe that you should always be using as a new player at this point in the league. Okay, if you're watching this video and it's not a week and a half or 2 weeks into 3.13, you might want to you know, ask somebody if this is still the play, right? Because things change every league, and you'd be surprised at what can change in a small period of 3 months. So this is for the current time and going forward in 3.13 league. So we have 20%, we have the map rare, and we have filtered out every mod that we cannot do. At this point, we know that these maps are pretty much good to go, right? And how would I do it? So if I was running non like focus farming one region, or I just wanted to like run a bunch of maps at once, here's what I would do. I would take a corruption orb, and if you look at my videos from previous, I have videos on how good corrupting maps is, and previous rolling videos, and the corruption orb is one of the most powerful orbs, because as a new player, when you see this orb, you probably have no use for this, right? You know that it can probably brick people's equipment. You know, it's like it can corrupt items. You know, maybe you even know that like little special interactions where it can like make a map jump in a tier if it's under 16, or become a special map, or maybe it can turn a item into a rare and a 6 link and stuff like that. But for mapping, this orb is so powerful, because a lot of time it's going to make your map un-ID'd. If a map becomes un-ID'd, it does not change mods. So you see the roles on here? You can memorize those roles. You don't need to memorize them. But if I were to corrupt this map and make it unidentified, okay, it would keep all the roles that are on there right now. It will not change. So remember, we pre-filtered everything we can't do. And so now when you get un-ID'd from corruption, it is safe to run. Another change is that it will change it into sometimes an 8 mod, which is huge quantity. If you're going to use this orb, which I do recommend for spam farming, just generic spam farming of maps, make sure you do a filter afterwards. So let's imagine that I'll just do like these. I'll just do like these 2 right here so you can see. Okay. So let's say like I corrupt this one. Oh yeah, it turned into an 8 mod. It's insane, right? It just doubled like the pack size and the quantity. And then this one right here, that one has no change. So not a big deal, right? The boss will drop some fragments for you, you know, for you to use later or not. It doesn't really matter. If you're going to do this to a tab of maps that you're rolling, it is extremely important after you corrupt everything to filter again, because look, this changed the modifiers on it. So you might want to do your filters again. So I would do of Ellie, I would do temporal chains, right? And then I would do, what's the other one? Cannot regen. To make sure that the corruption didn't hit those. And if those are hit, you know, you can't change these, so you can sell these off. You can run these later on another character. So you would have to pull those out, okay? That's how I do it for generic spam farming of maps. Now, why do I not use corruptions currently? And that is because I'm currently rolling for certain strategies with double beyond, where if I corrupt it, I might lose the beyond, so I'm not going to do that. But for the new player watching this, that is basically good to go for now as far as map rolling goes, right? If you do the things that I just mentioned, and I highly, highly recommend that you use this orb. I know it might seem weird when you have like maybe like only like 5 or 10 maps, because some of them might brick. And if you're doing under tier 16, they have a chance to change a tier into a higher tier. They can never go down 1 tier, but they can go 1 tier higher. You might lose the map that you need for Atlas bonus or something. I wouldn't really worry about that, because the returns are so massive. And even if you get some bricked maps, it's not going to matter. So now, after all this is done, what else would I add to my maps? Well, right now, sextons are extremely cheap. These add special modifiers, but namely monsters to your maps, okay? So I would use 4 sextants always, right? In no situation should you be using less than 4 sextants for any reason, right? Because it's gonna add so much juice. And if you can type in sextant on my YouTube videos, and I think I have videos going over like every sextant rule and what I think about them, and how I'd use them and stuff like that. So use the 4 sextants on there, and then at this point you are pretty much good to go, right? You could just run the map with the 4 sextants and how you've rolled it, but I highly recommend that you start using scarabs here. And I'm gonna go ahead and give you a very quick rundown of what is really safe to use, okay? As generic new player advice, I'm gonna tell you the most valuable scarabs that you don't have to worry about, like will this work, will this not work, does it suck, okay? And that is going to be things like Harbinger, Rusted Harbinger, very very easy to use on any map. Maybe pair it with Valdo's, the Eldo scarab, pretty much universally good on any map because it just adds monsters. Div card maps, you might want to hold off on this unless you're running a map with an extremely valuable div card. Breaches on almost any map, a breach can be pretty good, except for really narrow and blockaged, like toxic sewer, haunted mansion, things where you might get cut off, right? Like even barrel chambers, which has like the worst spawn locations of most of its breaches, you can use a breach scarab on there and you're going to be totally fine. The Carto Scarab, once you get into tier 15, 16 maps, I would say a Carto Scarab is actually one of the most undervalued scarabs, because Park map and Summit maps, you can sell in bulk for like 9C, and Park maps you can sell for like 8 or 9C in massive bulk, and Park maps you can sell for about 5 or 6C in big bulk. And this will drop you so many of them at the 15 and 16 tier level that the returns you make from the map can actually like eclipse profit wise, right? Like the amount you get from that minus the cost of scarab, it can eclipse a lot of other scarabs, and you'd be surprised. So that's a pretty global one at the higher red level. Now Parandis is extremely good because this is like 2C, and if you run Parandis in Lexi Jewelries, you have a huge jambling opportunity with Parandis to get a lot of tier 1 items and sometimes a mirror or a headhunter, right? At not as rare as you might think. Next, Shaper is exactly the same as Elder, except for it has like some balls that are like really annoying, but it adds a lot of monsters, so that's always universally good. Ambush, pretty damn good. You might have to carry around an alchemy stack in your inventory, which is kind of annoying for me, but Ambush is pretty generic. Awesome scarab, use it whenever. Metamorph, pretty damn good. Now there are nodes and skill trees on the talent tree, on the Atlas, where it is exceptionally good, but Metamorph is also cheap enough on the rusted level where you can just put in any map. It's like a map hack because you can see where the monsters are, and at the end, if you're not too annoyed by tagging the Metamorph, free rares, free boss, and higher quality loot on average than any of those scarabs. Sulfy, this is for delvers. If you're a new player, don't worry about this one. This one kind of like sucks, this league, if you want a map. Torment, okay, Torment is like pretty garbage. Torment Scarab is actually one of the worst ones, and I would recommend new players stay away from this one because even like the time spent trading, even if it was like 1 ouch or something like that, it wouldn't be worth your trading time because the other ones are so much better for returns. Okay. Reliquary. Now Reliquary is kind of weird because Reliquary, you can use it pretty freely, at least like the rusted ones, but you might not feel the effects, and actually it might slow you down a bit because if you have a bad filter, as most new players do, you are going to be picking up way too many uniques. Your inventory might fill up and you're gonna be looking at a lot more trash items to slow you down. So Reliquary is like good if you have a very strict loot filter, totally fine to use, but as a newer player I would kind of avoid that when you're starting out. And then Bestiary. Now Bestiary is pretty damn strong on some of the regions. You could pair it up with skill points on the Atlas. But I find it that the rusted Bestiary scarab, if you find yourself running a map where you don't really find a good use for another one of the masters because you want to save those masters for other regions, for example, like Alba, you want to save for Glenotch Cairns, then you can just run the Bestiary mission or throw in a random rusted Bestiary scarab, and if you can handle the mobs in that map, then it's totally fine. You'll get some good value out of it because they always spawn mobs. They have very very good quantity and rarity, by the way, the yellow and the red beasts. And it's not like just the beastcraft, it's also the drops that they have. So you can think of them as a large pack of regular mobs. So that's what I think about the scarabs for you to use. I would never use scarabs at this point, or sorry, I would never use sack frags at this point because they're kind of garbage. They're extremely cheap. They only had 5% quantity, and that quantity is pretty damn bad. I'll explain like a little paint diagram I have later on, but don't use these sack frags. These are like usually early map. You can kind of like waste these, so to speak, if you're running like some trash map because you want to test out something in another region, or you just need the you have to get your invitation to get filled this blue bar, and you're running a map just to like get those bosses tagged by the Malvin. You can throw in like 3 or 4 of these, just to waste them and get some quantity. Maybe you'll get something good. But yeah, I would stay away from these for now. Okay. So that is next level juice for the scarabs. I got a lot of questions on what scarabs are you using for your burial chambers, the map that I'm farming, and really like it's kind of up in the air, right? So I for example, I'll kind of explain my reasoning on why it doesn't really matter what someone else is using, because I use Div because it drops the doctor. I use Prandis because I am jambling with friends of the family with Prandis, right? Which is not something that everybody does, but I find it very fun, very rewarding, and pretty funny because of like there's like certain memes around it. So I use the Prandis Scarab. I use the Breach Scarab because Breach is just a hell of a lot of monsters, and I've dropped doctors in Breach before, so it just feels good to me. The layout's like pretty bad for it sometimes, but the overall monster count and the things you can do with the watchstones like these right here make it worth it to me. And then for the last one, I was using Metamorph because it has Metamorph skill points in the Atlas nose. Sometimes I use Elder if I run out, if I'm just trying to save like a little bit of time. I've tried out Ambush, I've tried out Carto, and I've tried out a little bit of Harbinger as well. So you can see that like I don't really like have too strict of rules for this, and you really got to think about like, as long as you remember like what the good scarabs are, you are pretty free to use whatever you want. You can't lose money on the maps, so don't worry if like you see someone running like Breach, Carto, Prandis, Ambush, and like you're doing that map and you're like, wait, I want to use Harby, Elder, Reliquary, and Metamorph, right? Or Legion, or whatever. I don't have any Legion because I put them all in the other stash. But don't worry about that kind of stuff. This kind of minutia is going to slow you down. You're going to have to do more trades. You're going to overbuy things. You're going to waste a lot of time. And just really use the scarabs you have first and foremost, which is something I'm trying to get more into the habit of, and then buy them afterwards if you run out. Okay. I will say that for rusted scarabs and sometimes polished, if they're around the same price, or 1 or 2 C range, is you can never go wrong with that. 4 sextants, 4 scarabs, and the map rolling we talked about earlier for new players at this point, you will be right as rain. Okay, you will be fine, and there's nothing else you really need to do. Okay, you can watch other videos for like strategies around the different regions and stuff, but that kind of stuff is the core. As long as you have the core tenets of map rolling down, you're going to be totally fine. Okay. And don't worry so much about what other people are doing. You're going to make a lot of money just with that. Now, what if you do want to roll a little bit more, right? Well, in that case, then what you're going to have to look at is you are going to try to get more monsters in your map in other ways. Now, how can we do that? Or we got to get like more like fun things in your map in other ways. So the way that we can do that is on the most basic level. Okay, once again, this is a new player video, so if some of this stuff sounds like you're like, why is he mentioning that? Like everybody knows this. That's crazy, right? It's a new player video. Okay, so I'm gonna try to think about things that like maybe I thought about when rolling maps when I was new. So another way to do it is you can upgrade your sextants, right? At this point, you can see like I don't even use these 2 anymore, and I started to stock up way too many of them. At some point, I'll have to convert these or sell them or just take them off my filter because too many. So when you upgrade your sextant that you use, you actually upgrade the number of packs and the quality. So you can start moving up in the sextants. You can look at the prices online and see if they are similar, right, within 1 or 2 C of each other, and you just go ahead and upgrade because that'll give you way more monsters. And then there's also cool little rolls that will happen on only the prime level and the awaken level. So for example, moving from simple to prime, you're gonna notice that you're gonna start getting the shrine roll. As a new player, I would never re-roll the shrine roll. That shrine is badass, and so you'll keep that shrine. You'll see how cool it is, right? The gloom and the resounding shrine. Moving from the prime to awakened sextant, you might see like really cool rolls like Beyond, Nemesis 3, and Harbinger and things like this. And these rolls, you'll kind of slowly learn. Just ask somebody if you don't know what the thing does, or like go on the wiki to see what that roll is. And where I have a YouTube video talking about like the different sextant rolls and stuff. So by upgrading your sextant that you use and not just staying on simples, you will be able to get more juice, right? Because like master missions start on primes, I believe. So you can get free master missions by using this, and it's really not more expensive. And then also you can be a little bit more picky with your rolls, okay? And you can start like mixing things together, okay? So it's like Gloom Shrine, I love that. Lightning monsters, right? Child's monster, that's great. And then the strong box one, like you might be like, what is that? Well, you know, strong boxes you can pair with things like if you want to start pairing, you can pair with things like ambush scarabs, or you can go with whatever you want. You don't even need to pair it. You can just run the zone and just keep in mind, oh wow, I know that I'm gonna get some juicy strong boxes. Maybe I will counterplay that by carrying a stack of Alch in my inventory here, right? Like these like small little tweaks and being ready to play when a situation arises will really help you, and to be like forward thinking, like, okay, I have these, what do I do, right? Because let's say you want to have some, another example is like you want to have some fun, right? You see this Gloom Shrine, you're like, oh, well, I mean, I have a goal, that's pretty cool, right? But like if I have the Gloom Shrine and it lasts longer and stuff, like why don't I put on, maybe I'll try out my infused domination, right? Adds 6 extra shrines. Wow, that's crazy, right? That's actually insane. Or you might do regular domination or whatever you want. So things like little tweaks like this will get you more juice. And then next, let's talk about the watchstones, because another question I get asked on stream is like, okay, I know how you're juicing, I know the scarabs that you like, I know the map you like, I know how you roll your maps. What about these watchstones, right? Because you really, at this point, if you're running a zone, you should not. Okay, I repeat, if you have the money for it, you should not be using regular watchstones. They are complete garbage. They do nothing. They're like a white map, right? But these, you can roll a prefix suffix on them. I'm gonna show you how to do that real quick by bringing up my, I'm gonna try to bring up my Chrome browser here. One moment, please. Where is it? Right here. So this is a website called PoEDB, PoEDB.tw, okay? And it's just like a kind of a database of like data mine things, weightings. Now, the watchstones come in a few types, and you can just search the watchstone you're looking for your region. Suffixes are always the same, and you can look at what prefix you want. So on mine, right, I get asked a lot, like, what are you using? Because people want to copy mine, but you really shouldn't copy anybody, because you need to think about, like, am I using the things necessary to to match up with the scarabs and sextants and map that I'm using? So I'll give you a quick example here. Now, I have Catalogers, Ejori's Watchstones, right? Why am I using these, right? These are kind of weird. Nobody uses these. These aren't meta. And the reason I use them is because I'm running Parandis Scarabs with a 100% Kadibro chance every single map, okay? No questions asked. So in those maps, there's Parandis chests, okay? So there's 1. And then the winged Parandis Scarab adds 7, so that's 8, right? And if you really want to get crazy with it, when you add Kadibro here, which I don't recommend this, but you can add another 3. So because I have so many of these little chests, right? I was like, how can I make that more fun? So I went to the website to see what the prefixes and suffixes were, and I determined, you know what? I know that there's a box that drops div cards. If I am in burial chambers, you know, maybe one of those div cards will be a doctor. I think the chest isn't determined by the map itself. Like if I ran the Parandis on like this map, I'm pretty sure the Catalogers box could drop a doctor, but like it's just kind of like a cool matching of the Parandis with like the map. This is kind of cool, right? So I wanted to try that out. So what I thought about was like, okay, if I get 4 of those rolls, that's 200%, and then I can take secret stones, and I can get 25 effect, and that's 250% increased chance of the Catalogers, right? Now, I don't have any data on this because nobody runs this, so I was like, that's just gonna be fun. I'm gonna test it out. My findings were that Catalogers are incredibly rare, to the point where like I might get on average 1 Cataloger box every 2 or 3 maps, maybe sometimes. Sometimes you get 2 in 1. Yeah, it's like random, but it was really, really rare. However, I also learned before that, I would never know this if I didn't test it out, right? That the Catalogers has a native drop to the box called the Cheater, the 2-time. And that card I've gotten twice in like 40 maps, right? So that's like, that is about 6 exalts of value just from that box. And if I keep going, I expect to get it even more, right? To pay for the cost of rolling these watchstones. And then, you know, you can sell them, you can turn them in for what the thing is. By the way, that card is a level 6 20% awaken gem, so it can be very, very valuable if it's something like a multi-strike, a spell echo, you know, things like this. So, you know, I learned something. I had a lot of fun searching for that box, And I got the data. I like now I know for the future forever what that does and how that feels, right? Before that, what I was running is because I was running the breach scarabs. What I did is I was using 4 of these. Same principle, right? 100% chance, increased chance of belonging to Chayubi of a breach. So and this one pops off. Like there were times when I get like 3-4 Chayubi breaches in a row, and it's really sick because the watchstones, right? And the reason I wanted to try that is because there's no breach skill points here, right? But I knew that if I got enough Chayubis, it'd be great because I can eventually pair it with my my strategy here, which is my It That Fled leadership, meaning I get 2 breach stones pure of Chayubi every time I finish a safe house, right? So it's a nice little synergy there, like long-term synergy. You're not just thinking about the map, you're thinking about like how does this feed into my future strategies, my money-making strategies, things like that. So that's what I was thinking there. And so that is why I was going with the Chayubi stones before, right? And this is what I'm trying to get at, that you don't always have to do a meta strategy. I'll talk a little bit about the meta later, but you don't always have to do like what everyone else is doing. You can kind of think for yourself, look at websites like PoEDB and think, okay, what scarabs am I using? What's my long-term goals? What's my short-term goals? Is there any prefixes or suffixes or types of watchstones, on this website that I can use to make my focus farm way more juicy? And that's a big part of my rolling of my maps, because I consider all this stuff as part of the mapping process. It's not just the individual map itself and the sections and the scarabs. It's like these little now it's like the skill points, and it's the watchstones themselves, and like the counterplay of the sextants. I have delirium, and so I'll talk about delirium a little bit. The reason that I use 20% delirium, if you're a new player, you can use, if you use one of these, you'll get 20% delirium. Pretty difficult for like really fresh bad characters, but not too much harder if you're already like level 85, 90 plus, whatever. I use one of these orbs on each map. Obviously you can't use these after you corrupt, okay? So you have to use it before. If you use it before, you probably don't corrupt because you could lose the roll. The explicit rolls, on the map that make it like undoable, like you can get a cannot regen or reflect or whatever. So when I use one of these, the reason I use one of these is because it's a massive boost to monsters. Gives you quantity, gives you rarity throughout the entire map, no matter what. And then, because I'm running beyond on all my maps from the map device, and then shortly on my maps themselves, it pairs really nice with that because those maps don't have a coefficient on them, so they can spawn beyond normally, okay? So the delirium plus the magic find rarity plus the number of monsters to spawn more beyonds, that has nice synergy. So we're always looking for synergy. That's what I go for the for the deli orb. And then so because I use a deli orb, right? I don't want to trade too much for the deli orb, so I'm like, how can I get more juice? Well, more splinters. You can sell the the actual simulacrums for like 1 exalt a piece now, and then for here, 15% of my maps I do have 3 reward tiles that can be really spicy, that don't add 3 reward tiles of difficulty, because then that would be like like 80, 100% delirium. That'd be super hard. So this is like the skill tree I've chosen because of what I'm running. Let's talk about the meta a little bit. So currently there's a meta of if you're gonna roll like your maps to run, like what zone should you do? And I would say that people like to run they like to run the watchstones for harbingers, right? Rarity of shards, extra shard stack. They like to run diplomatic escort, a bunch of ancient orbs, things like that. Sometimes exalted shards, maybe even a mirror shard here and there. That's a huge strategy. There's another strategy in New Vestir where people run legions with stuff like this, and then they pop off on the emblems, and the sergeants always have rewards. That's another strategy. You can watch other videos on the subject on YouTube. Like for example, Grimro has some good videos that are purely focused on profit and how to get the most bang for your buck or make the most money. He outlines some of those in his videos, and you can watch guys like Path of Math on his videos for certain like A/B testing on should I do X or Y, right? Should I do this thing or not? So those guys are pretty good. I highly recommend their videos and stuff. And there's plenty of other content creators that do stuff like this. So go check out. I watch all kinds of videos. Even if it's recently I watched this is Badger video about like how the atlas works, how to drop maps, how to map drop, right? Like all this stuff. But like I love watching all types of content because it might help you learn it or think about it in a different way, or maybe they explain it in a good way that you can use to explain to someone else. So I watch all these videos, find good content creators that you like, watch their videos, and you'll learn something about like the meta or like what's going on in the current league. So you can do that. Another strategy is if you want to farm your harvest, you can spam maps here, try to get the harvest, sell it on TFT Discord. But that for a new player, that might be a little bit grindy, a little bit intense. You really have no idea if you didn't play harvest what's going on, so that might be a little bit tough. But the thing I wanted to bring up about the meta is that just because a lot of people are doing it, it doesn't really mean that it's good. Okay, story time. I'm gonna tell you guys a quick story that maybe will make you guys laugh. So there was a league when we were playing Whale Spark and Fireball, and there was a thing called a foil that you would make, right? Because we used to use Brightbeak, and after a while we changed this foil, and we thought, okay, we thought there were certain attack speed influencers, right, on the foil that would change your shield charge speed. So as it turned out, we were completely wrong for like probably a month, right? I think it was something to do with explicit roll, like was the only thing that mattered, and the base roll of the weapon did not matter. Meaning that like if you had a 100 attacks per second weapon, but it didn't have an explicit like increased attack speed roll, that would be way slower than a one attack every 50 seconds weapon with a 25% attack speed roll. Just as an example, okay? And so we kind of like proliferated this knowledge throughout the community based on a couple people's like thoughts on it, and then everyone spent money on this foil, right? A few exalts, which at the time is like, now it would be like spending like 20 or 30 exalts on something, and we were all wrong. There's hundreds of people that had this foil that were using these foils because of the base attack speed, and we were all wrong, okay? And these are like top men, okay, in the field that farm at the speed of light, okay, like your self-curse headhunter thingies, just blasting away maps. We were just bought into this. And what I'm trying to say is like, if you see everyone doing something, right, like your friends are telling you, yo, like Valdos is so good, this is so good, just take a step back, and as a new player, don't worry so much that you're missing out, because everybody's missing on something. If you're doing Valdos, you're not selling your AUG crits for like 2 exalts. You're not selling your AUG speeds for like 5 exalts on TFT. If you're doing harvest, you know what you're doing? You're buying maps a lot. You're spamming maps a lot, and you can go like an hour without getting a harvest. You can get like the shittiest harvest possible. It's super boring sometimes not getting it. You can get a Heart of a Grove that cucks your harvest. There's like a lot of things that happen. And if you're doing that, like, you're not doing legions. Now, legions drop a lot of pure exalts because of this thing right here. High value targets makes your legions so incredibly juicy. It's kind of hard to like even explain how juicy these can get, right? So everyone is always missing out on what they're not doing. And in my example, if you're not doing Lex Ejoris with friends of the family, you're missing out on straight up Headhunter and Mirror drops that Kadira will eventually offer you. Okay, so you will always be missing out on something. So don't worry about doing the optimal thing. Just try to have fun, because if you're having fun and you play for 10 hours, and I'm like some cuck that is following the meta, but I don't enjoy it, and I only play for 5 hours, right? You just have double my quantity because you played twice as long. So think about it like that. So don't worry about too much of this stuff, and try to like just think like, how can I have the best time with what I am doing? This is very, very important PoE, because if you don't do that, you're gonna burn out super fast, and the game's not gonna be fun. And that's kind of how people ask, like, hey, how do you play for like 2 months at a time? Full juicing, like, doing the same thing every day. And it's because I just do what I enjoy. I don't care what anyone else is doing. With that said, it is also totally fine to follow a strategy when you're starting out. For example, Valdos is extremely powerful. Maybe I'd say, like, for newer players, the initial cost of scares might be scary right here, because you have to sell some emblems and stuff and other drops. So I think like naturally Valdos might be a safer area for new players. But then once you branch out, feel free to try out different watchstones. Let me bring up this little paint thing I have, right? Where is it? Right here. Okay, so the reason I wanted to bring this up is I want to talk about the freedom you have to do whatever you want. This is kind of like a segue, right? The freedom you have to do whatever you want just by having fun, as long as you are like kind of juicing your map to the minimum amount. Okay, so on the top left, it's like if you take a map and you run it and there's no influence on it, right? The Conqueror doesn't spawn. It's just a white map, like you scoured it. It might have like 500, like 450 to 500 monsters, right? So when you add a sexton with monsters, it's gonna be like 200 monsters. So let's say you add 4 sextons, that's 800 monsters. Now, the reason this is very, very important to think about, okay, and why this will give you peace of mind, is because if you are not juicing very hard as a noob, and let's say you heard from someone that you need to use a Harbinger Scarab, right? And you put in your Ouch and Go map, and you put in your Harbinger Scarab, and like from map to map, you want to try something different. You're not really feeling it. You want to change it up. You maybe change maps and change zones. If you ever forget to do a thing, right? You forget to put your Sextants on. You forget to put your Harbinger Scarab on. You forget to put your Scarab on that adds monsters. You are losing a massive amount of juice. Okay, so let's say that before you're a player, let me use this concrete example. Okay, your map has 500 monsters. You put one Sextant on, and now you have 700 monsters, right? So if you forget to Sextant that, what happens, right? You want to change it up. So like instead of a Sextant that gives monsters, you roll one Sextant that has Tormented Spirits, and you want to try that out because you have a prophecy like Possessed Foe, or you have Shansei in Lex Proxima or something, right? And you decide to change it up, and you're like, okay, I'm not gonna run the monster Sextant anymore, right? You might be asking, why would you be running one Sextant? Well, this is an example for new players, okay? So bear with me. So you forget that you don't do the monster Sextant, and now you've lost basically, before you had 700 monsters, now you only have 500, okay? And that is a massive loss, right? Because you have lost 200 monsters, which is large percentage, 2 divided by 7. In other situations like this, if you ever forget something or try something new, you could lose up to 50% of your monsters, okay? So let's say normally you are putting in Scarabs, and you're rolling monsters, and then on one pack you have the Sextants. You have like June, you have Ghosts, you have Corrupted Boss, and Bodyguards drop a map. Okay, now you don't have any pack size from there. You're losing so many monsters. Actually, be more than the native amount of monsters in the actual map, right? And so in these examples, you have a very small pool of juice. Okay, so losing one is so bad. When you start juicing more, and when you have this mindset that you have 4 Sextants on any map, no matter what, and it's 4 good Sextants that you want to run, and then you have 4 Scarabs that you're going to run at this point in the league because they're super cheap and they're absolutely worth, and then you're going to do some kind of like deli, and then you're going to do something from the map. You're going to pick something from the map device because you can't lose money on that either, and then you're going to pair it with a region that you like with some kind of like Watchstone strategy, and then you're going to add this and that. Now, this is really good because as you get up to this level, you're going to realize that your freedom to swap in one thing or another does not change anything. If you take out your breach, like if I'm running my bears and I take out my breach scarabs one day, even if I'm using my Chayubi Watchstones, and I swap in Metamorph, or I swap in Ambush, or I swap in hell, even if I swap in Elder or like Shaper, you won't notice because your average level is so high, right? Because like every scarab, let's say like I have some numbers on, right? Like Breach, Harbinger, like Elder, these things, they might add like 2 to 200 to like well, depending on the location of the breach, like 100 to like whatever, right? But it might add up to like 1,000, 2,000 monsters maybe. And at that point, when everything coming together adds thousands and thousands of monsters to your map, at that point, I would say what you're gonna find is that you can swap out anything you want. You get a Sextant that you want to try out one scarab. You get a Sextant where you want to try out, like for example, you get a Legion Sextant, you want to try out Legion Scarab. You get an Ambush Sextant, you want to try Ambush Scarab instead of your normal Scarab. You can freely switch these things out, and you're not going to notice because the percentage loss of the thing you switched out is going to be such a small amount of the total juice that it doesn't matter. Does that make sense? Right? So on one side, if you're not using very much juice and you're like stuck in your ways, when you forget something or you change something up, huge juice loss. You start with a big amount of juice and you take out one thing, swap in things as you learn the game. That percentage is very small, right? It's kind of like if you lose $10 and you only had $10 in your bank account, you're broke, right? It sucks. But if you have $1 billion and you lose $10, you don't care, right? Like you don't care at all. It's kind of like that, right? It's like scale. So try to scale it up because the super juice map is like one piece is a very, very small percentage. And you will find if you have a mindset like this, you won't feel so entrenched in the meta. You won't feel like you need to go watch a YouTube video like this one or watch anybody else's YouTube video or follow the meta because you think you might be losing out. Because you will know that whatever you do, you're making money. Whatever you do, you can like counterplay, like swap out for fun. Try new things, and you're not going to be hurting yourself. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to mention a little bit. I don't know if that was explained very well, but it's kind of I've been kind of thinking of like why do we feel like why do new players feel like they're always missing out? Why do they feel like they're not making anything, right? So I want to get that point across that the more you juice, the more you get familiar with these mapping mechanics, the more you'll be able to do, and you kind of maybe like you'll define the meta someday. Okay. Besides that, juicing maps, I want to say a little bit about this column strategy, because I see a lot of people asking about this. So the way that I do this is that the reason I have it here like this for my scarabs is because if you are running a map one at a time and you go to your scarab tab to pull scarabs every time, I don't care how experienced you are, this is terrible. Because look, this scarab looks like this scarab, right? And although they're different places, like look at this div scarab with this torm scarab, they're kind of the same, right? So you're gonna be like, okay, even if you're on the side, you're gonna be like, okay, let me pull one of these. Oh wait, should I get one of these? Like, and then like, oh, where's the other one? Is it oh, this one and then this one? And you're gonna do that every single time for the first scarabs. No, don't do that. Okay, for efficiency's sake, if you're planning out a farming session, just line them up and then you go across like this. Go bam, 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 right? So what I do, I'll actually put these back here. What I do for like my map rolling and setting up this column is I'll have my maps, a few maps here, but I have my columns here. And when I'm ready to run maps, I check my sextants, right? We're good to go. And I go like this. I take 2 sets. And the reason I take 2 sets is because when I put in one set with the map, I'll hit activate, right? I'll select my thing. I hit activate, master missions if I need to. The moment I hit activate, once the map spawns and deletes these things, I can instantly put in the next set so that when I get out of the map, I can like go again, right? You don't have to get this sweaty. This is pretty sweaty, isn't it? But yeah, so that's like just what I do to have a little bit of a better time in the maps. And you can try like a rolling strategy where you set up everything in advance, and trust me, the efficiency, things like this will make you a little bit faster. Another thing you do is like line up your prophecies. Now prophecies won't proc all the time, which is why I don't have like one for every map. But I recommend, if you're gonna do a prophecy, which is really, really good right now and really cheap in bulk because of all of the people farming delis. Prophecies that is the most global is the Tempest, because the Tempest, any Tempest besides Whale Winds, because they will add a 30% flat quantity bonus to your map, which gets multiplied by this, okay? So that's something I recommend for the Tempest if you're going to do it. And what did I do to roll my maps, and what other suggestions I have for newer players? That's about it. That's about it, actually. It's kind of a rant of the video. I don't know. It was kind of long, right? It talked about a few things. And yeah, I hope you guys have some fun, okay? Have some fun out there. Enjoy the league. Don't be afraid to try new things on this Atlas. Everyone's kind of still in a learning stage right now, right? And it will get more refined as the leagues go on, because this is permanent stuff here, okay? So that's my video. Hope you guys enjoyed my video. If you guys have any questions, I stream every day in the evenings, US time, at twitch.tv/qdog_. And if you can ask me anything you want over there. Okay. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Bye.